It's always fun getting to try something for the first time.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Good, and it looks like we are live. So, welcome to everyone here on Zoom, and welcome to those here on YouTube as well. We are so thrilled to be doing another webinar. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience with the change in the schedule from last week. I know Michael's disappointed that he's not getting to make Star Wars jokes on May the 4th, but I told him he's still allowed to do a May the 4th joke even though it's May 11th. So stay tuned for that. And this is a different kind of webinar from what we usually host. Rather than talking all about the app, today we're going to be talking with one of the people who's been working on the app, our lead mobile programmer, Michael Doise. And I am just so excited for all of you to get to know Michael more. And before we start the conversation, I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items. I did mention earlier that this is live streaming onto YouTube. So if any questions that are asked, your voice would be on YouTube. And then I've muted everybody for now, and we're going to have a time at the end of the presentation for questions. So during the conversation with Michael, we won't be taking questions, just so that you can really get to know him and hear what he has to say. But we will leave about 20 minutes at the end for questions. And I know some people have already sent some by email, so we will get those included. So with all of that said, I'd like to introduce today's guest, Michael Doise. And Michael joined the WayAround team last fall as our mobile accessibility developer. He works on both the iOS and the Android versions of the WayAround app. And one of the many ways that I've really come to rely on Michael is that he has a finger on the pulse of both technology and accessibility. So what new accessibility features are coming and how can they be incorporated into the WayAround app? And what mainstream features are coming out that can be really beneficial to our users? And of course, what's the latest and greatest with NFC, the near field communication technology that powers WayAround? And like our co-founders, Michael uses WayAround to make his own home more accessible. Michael started building apps more than 10 years ago in 2011. He started with Pocket Braille, Visual Braille, and VO Starter, which was the first voiceover training app for iOS. He's also worked on apps for Blind Bargains, the American Council of the Blind, and the NFB Newsline mobile app. In addition to programming, Michael has worked closely with individuals who are blind or visually impaired as a technology instructor with various agencies in Texas. Michael is passionate about new technologies and believes that everyone should have equal access to information. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's the best intro anybody could have.
Well, it's great to have you as part of the team and also great to have our users get to know you. So to start off, Michael, how did you get into programming?
That's a great question. Everybody has their own starts of how they get started thing. And I started really getting into computers. I didn't know what I wanted to do with life. And I really started getting into computers at 9 years old. And I was going to the school for the blind and different programs for people that are blind. And I went to the annual space camp they had for kids that were blind. And I met a great friend who was really into computers. And he said, did you know you could do all these things with this accessibility device that was called the Keynote Companion? And he tried to do programming and told me about all these cool things you could do. And I said, I've got to know more. And so it became a lifelong quest to learn more and more about technology. So I got into programming at that age, building computers, doing anything I could to learn more at a very young age. And then when Apple created the iPhone and then they brought out the App Store, I thought, this would be a great area to get into with building apps and learning about these new technologies. And, it's always the next challenge. What can you build? What kind of problems can you solve is always my goal. And so then, WayAround said they needed a new app developer. And I said, this is right up my alley. So.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you really started as kind of a jack of all trades, and as technology developed, when did you really decide to focus on mobile apps?
Really, when I decided to focus on mobile apps was back around 2010, 2011. I said, I've been trying to wrap my head around this, and it was mainly Apple. I hadn't started really with the Android side because I didn't have an Android phone, and so I started working with Xcode. I had a Mac. I started using Macs in 2005. I went into an Apple store and I said, I was a very hardcore Windows person. I said, okay, impress me. Show me why I should buy a Mac. And they showed me the built-in accessibility features on the Mac. And that was such a huge impact to me. And so that's why I always, since then, have been a big fan of the Apple products. And so I said I wanted to develop for them. And then, everybody started going cross-platform, Android, iOS. So I thought, it's good to learn both. So I learned how to build Android versions of the apps I've already built. So, just creating something, seeing it come to life is a passion of mine. Just seeing something come from nothing. You press that build and run button and you see it on your device. That's where the magic is.
Yeah, that's great. And I know Apple has really built that their reputation as being the first most accessible platform. But where do you see Android these days? Has it caught up, or there's some things that are different or unique about that platform in terms of accessibility?
Android is a very interesting user. It's very interesting because every phone and every manufacturer is slightly different. So what you get on one is possibly different on another. And what I get with the Google experience, I may not get on Samsung, or what I get on Samsung, I may not get on OnePlus. So it's really about what you prefer. Same with going between Android and iPhone. And each one has different strengths and weaknesses, even with accessibility. There was a time on Samsung where you would try to use their apps with a screen reader, and it would say, you cannot use Samsung Pay with a screen reader on. Since then, they've really improved that, so it's not a problem. But there's still little things, especially in the area of Braille and different things that are lacking behind Apple. But they are making strides. They are making improvements. And so there are things that you can do on Android you can't do on iOS, like add custom voices through the Play Store, but it's just in how you like to use your device, really.
Great. Yeah, that's a really good answer. So, Michael, I do want to ask you about your eyesight, and how would you describe your vision?
So I was at birth. I was born with a condition called optic nerve hypoplasia, and what that means is the optic nerves in my eyes didn't fully develop, and so my eyes were totally fine. The connection between the eye and the brain in both eyes was not developed, and so that left me with 20/800 vision, which means what a person sees typically at 20 feet has to be enlarged 800 times for me to see properly with the same amount of detail. What this means is that I have to use magnification. If you're ever seeing me stream to YouTube or on video, if I'm going to be using my computer, I'm going to have to turn off my camera because I'll have to have my forehead right up on the camera so I can see what's going on in the computer. So it's always that balance of how to use a computer and be presentable to a camera.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And, what is it like being a programmer with low vision?
Believe it or not, it's actually kind of interesting. A programmer with low vision is used to be very difficult because everybody wanted the white background with the black or dark text, and now everybody's promoting these dark mode and high contrast themes for programming, since developers are looking at code all the time. And so I've started using color coding for different syntax and symbols and strings and different things, and that's really helped me just be able to glance at a piece of code just like everybody else can, and figure out what I'm trying to do. Also, hooking your computer up to a giant TV screen sometimes helps as well. Eye strain and eye fatigue is always a thing that you have to worry about, and so I also will use a screen reader like VoiceOver, or if I'm on Windows, NVDA or JAWS, to make sure that I can get my work done while also uh, keeping an eye out on my eyes.
That's great. And you know what, Michael, I'm going to ask you later about some of the things you've been working on for the Way Around app. But since you brought up dark mode, do you want to talk a little bit about that now?
Sure, I can. One of the biggest features that we've talked about, and that has become huge on both iOS and Android, is the ability for apps to have dark mode. And a lot of folks are saying, well, the apps already have had, or iOS and Android have already had invert colors. What's the difference? Well, the difference is invert colors will do as good of a job as they can. Smart invert colors does even better. But dark mode, what it does is it makes it to where the app is going to look great with a darker theme. So whether you have a black background or a very dark gray or dark blue, whatever you pick, it's going to look good with that background. It's going to look good with the light white or gray text, and then your images are going to look stellar, and your borders will look great. So it's a design pattern that is using darker colors and lighter text so that your app looks great. And we felt like at WayAround, since we're as focused as we are on accessibility, that dark mode was needed to be in the app, and so we've made that become a thing in our latest version. And I have to say, it looks great.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Some of our beta testers are getting to experience that now, and that release will be coming out pretty soon. And Way Around has always been worked with inverted colors, and then dark mode came out more recently. And what's the main difference that you see between having just inverted colors versus having the full dark mode experience?
At least in WayAround, I haven't used the inverted colors, but the dark mode really allows the app to just shine. Just you look at when you scan a tag, and I feel like sometimes it's a little more vibrant. The information just sticks out more, and I feel like sometimes dark mode, for people that use it, just really lets your content really pop out of the screen more than a lot of light mode apps do, and not just WayAround, but other apps as well, so that your content, what you're trying to convey, is more center stage. And I feel like we really portray that really well with the WayAround app. So it's been a great privilege to be able to help bring that into reality.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see it. I'm going to back up and go back to talking about you as a programmer. And what do you wish more people knew about being a programmer with vision loss?
One of the things that I always wish people knew is that it's not impossible. And this doesn't just relate to vision loss, but programming, a lot of people feel like it's out of their reach, it's too hard to do, and you can't do it. It's so not true. Programming is if you like to solve problems, programming is the career for you. And Apple, believe it or not, I'm going to be putting these on YouTube, on some of my personal channels. Apple has made a program for the iPad called Swift Playgrounds, and they're allowing people to build apps with an iPad. You don't have to. You just have to learn Swift. You don't have to learn anything technical other than the Swift UI language. You just learn that, and they have tutorials and games and all kinds of ways to do that. And with VoiceOver on, they even tell you the errors. They tell you where the problem is. They tell you indentation. They tell you all of that information, which even 10 years ago was impossible. If you're writing Python, there's even ways to learn how much is indented in Python. And so with the Visual Studio Code and NVDA for Windows, there's so many ways to get started. And you can go from having no knowledge to building great applications and back ends and front ends of websites in no time, with the accessible software that Microsoft and others have helped build, and even I believe it's called Code Jumper from APH, American Printing House for the Blind. They teach how to write applications as well, how to get started with programming accessibly. So there's so many ways of getting into this field now that more and more people are interested.
And do you feel like you've had any mentors over the years that have helped you really develop your programming skills?
A lot of my mentors are people I haven't met. There's a course system called LinkedIn Learning, and their teachers are great. It used to be called lynda.com. And so I'm a self-taught programmer. Everything I've learned through study and experimentation, documentation, those kind of things. But the nice thing is that I've been able to be a mentor to people now, and that's great. I feel like programming when I got started was just not something most people did, and so connecting and finding people in the field was a little more difficult, as the internet was not as prevalent as it is now. Social media, you just didn't talk about programming if there was social media at all. So I feel like now it's easier for people to reach out, find the folks and the help they need to do that. And schools are offering that to kids and young adults to get started as well. And so for me, where I did so much self-taught programming, now they have boot camps and all these things that you could just go to get started. So it's really incredible how things have changed.
Yeah, and it's, a lot of those boot camps last for a few weeks or a few months, so it's not like you
Right.
necessarily have to do, carve out 2 or 4 years to get a degree, but you can really get started pretty quickly.
Exactly.
And, in accessibility, Michael, there's a lot of focus on end users, so making the app experience, really accessible. And of course, we spend a lot of time doing that. But as a programmer, I know sometimes the back end, where the tools that you're actually using to develop can be more challenging in terms of accessibility. What are you finding tools that are doing a really good job of accessibility? And then where do you see some of the tools heading in terms of increasing accessibility?
And it's interesting you bring that up because we mentioned Microsoft. They make a lot of effort to make their tools accessible. So does Apple. Google uses a program called Android Studio, which on some platforms is completely accessible, on others it's not. And so it's interesting, what is and what is not accessible. There's loads of editors out there that are built off HTML that are or are not accessible. And so it's just, reaching out and finding out which tools are and are not. But I see that many of the tools that are being released are becoming more accessible because they are built by the bigger companies, Microsoft, Apple, and Google. There's always little tools that are, people like to use, but, there's a big website building tool that's called CodePen. And it's a completely visual way to build HTML pages. The issue is how easily do you make a drag and drop solution accessible? And so that's where they have a lot of problems. There is, if you're in a college setting and you're asked to use CodePen and you're a screen reader user, what do? You're not getting the same treatment as the rest of your peers. And so it's finding ways to accommodate and getting with working with these manufacturers of technologies to make these tools more accessible. Before we had Visual Studio Code from Microsoft, it was every man for themselves finding the best editor that had plugins. There's Notepad++ and Sublime Text to write code, but a lot of those had accessibility barriers for folks. So when we got Visual Studio Code, which had extensibility through extensions and plugins, that allowed for so many more developers to come into the field and say, I can do this because Microsoft has such a commitment to accessibility and building great tools. So
Yeah, it's, I think it's interesting to just hear, which companies really have that commitment, the full stack commitment, whether you're using it as an end user or, developing for the platform. And it
right,
sounds like both Apple and Microsoft really continue to invest in all parts of their software.
right.
So, Michael, let's switch for a little bit and talk some more about WayAround. And when I introduced you, I mentioned that you use WayAround in your own home. And what are some of the ways that you personally use WayAround?
So I live at home with my girlfriend. We're both legally blind. We both have some vision, but we use the way around to label our cabinets. And so that way, if we forget, if it's dark or we just don't turn the lights on, we can just go and scan a tag and say, this is where our plates and bowls are. This is where our cups are located. This is our medicine cabinet. And we've even put labels on bottles in our medicine cabinet, and we log in. What I'll do is I'll log in to our shared account, and that way I can just know, okay, that's labeled to say Tylenol. And then if I want to, I can go log back into my primary account and have other have the same label say something else. So there's so many ways of using around your own house, and one of the things that I might actually do is I have a lot of family that lives in different parts of Texas, and they always say, when you come to my home, you're at your own home. This is your home, as family typically does. But I don't know what's here. I don't know where things are, so I may take some initiative and label their house with some WayTags, with their permission, of course. And put those things like, okay, if I don't remember where things are, I could go scan these tags and locate, this is where plates are at my mother's house. So I don't have to go and open the cabinet and just start, is that a plate? Nope, that's their great looking dinnerware. Is that a good plate I could just use for tonight? Nope, that's all the cups. So for me, it's knowing where things are in a space that's really helpful, and knowing where cookware is and that kind of stuff in a kitchen. And, in bathrooms, just knowing where medications are, what you can expect in drawers that you open. So that's where I feel like, for me, where I use WayAround the most around the house.
Yeah, Michael, that's really interesting about labeling at your parents' house. And I think that's one of those environments that you're probably pretty familiar with it because you go there often enough, but you don't necessarily want to have to memorize, okay, the dishes, are in the third cabinet on the left. And so what a great way for them to be able to support you and you to be more independent at a place that isn't your own home. I love that idea.
Right.
And I know something else you've talked about with the medications and your girlfriend is our partnership with Accessible Pharmacy that we recently launched. And if you're not familiar with them, they are a mail order pharmacy out of Pennsylvania, and they work in about 32 states right now. Unfortunately, Texas is not one of those where Michael lives, but they will label your prescriptions, your supplements, vitamins, anything you want with WayAround. So you can call them up and order those things, and they'll come to your home already labeled with a WayAround tag that you could scan. So if you have not tried out that service, I would highly recommend it. They do plan on being in all 50 states by the end of the year. So if they're not in your state yet, check back because they should be soon.
That's fantastic. That's great news.
It's such a great service. It's been really popular. And Michael, you're a Braille user, is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
And talk to me a little bit, how do you find that WayAround can benefit someone who is a proficient Braille user?
So I started learning Braille whenever I was 2 years old. I started learning my name and things like that in grade one Braille. And even though I have enough vision to see different things, I use Braille um, on a not so frequent basis, but sometimes I like to read books with Braille and read different things. And I hope it's not too loud out there, folks. They're doing yard work here, but the I use Braille to read different things. And with WayAround, it's nice because you can pair WayAround with a refreshable Braille display and be able to read any of your WayTags with Braille. So, one of the nice things is we're working, to get our tags and things out to the public. And so, with our public WayTags, and so you can use your Braille display to read long amounts of information when you go out to these public venues and get the information that you need. And this is also very useful for deaf blind users who are using their phones with a Braille display to be able to get as much information as possible.
Yeah, and people who have been on webinars with me before have probably heard me say this, but one of our top users is deafblind, and she has about 800 things in her home tagged. So she also has some mobility issues, but she said that WayAround is the system that's let her stay independent in her home, as she's aged, as her vision has deteriorated and her hearing. So it is really flexible, whether you have color blindness or, low vision, no vision, deaf blindness. WayAround can work for you. So, Michael, we talked already a little bit about dark mode, but what are some of the other app features that you've been working on?
So some of the features that I've been working on, I think my favorite, because it's always something that's really neat to me, is adding in more support for what comes built into the system. And we've worked on the ability for currently our public tags to do background reading. You could already do this on Android. You can put the Android phone near any WayTag, and it will open the app and show you the information. We're working on this for our public WayTags for iOS to do this very similar thing as well. So you can move if you're out at a location that supports this or at one of our public venues that has public WayTags, you will be able to put the edge of your phone on the WayTag just as if you're going to scan it, and it will bring up the information through a notification that you tap on or double tap on if you're using VoiceOver, and then it will open the app with the information. And to me, that's going to make just doing that a lot faster, and it's just, to me, it's a lot of fun. I have the ability, as a developer to play with different WayTags and just see how this works, and just it makes the iOS experience a lot different. So we're very excited about this, in our upcoming release for folks that have the ability to go to our venues that have the public WayTags to try that out.
Yeah, it is really exciting. And of course, one of the big differences between the Android app and the iOS app is that if you're an Android user, you don't have a read button. You can just put your phone on a WayTag. So for iOS, this is really moving us in that direction. Right now, it works only for the public tags. So your tags that you're using at home, this feature isn't going to, the background reading won't work there. But if you are at a Way site, you can always try it out. And the tags, if you order new WayTags, not all of the packaging tags, but if you order any new ones, you can actually scan those packages, and you'll be able to read those in the background. So it's really exciting. And if you are curious what are our Way sites, we're going to be having some more updated information on that soon. We do have a growing list of Way sites, and if you know somewhere that would like to become a Way site, definitely send us a note and we'd be happy to be in touch. So Michael, anything else that you're working on right now or that you've recently released that you think people should know about?
So the biggest things, is the dark mode that we've done. We've been working on just improving just the the way the app works as far as the accessibility, making sure things are working better, and we're always working to fix bugs or things that aren't working. We've really, I feel like we as a team work closely with our customers to improve the app. So it's really great being able to see those things. We're the background scanning and the dark mode are just two things, but we're working on things like changing the text size in the app for Android and just improving the app altogether. So those are kind of the big highlights of our next release, and there's always more things to come further on down the road that we're very excited to share with folks when that time comes.
Great. And I know a lot of people really like to get in on those things first, and you can do that by becoming a beta tester. So if anyone on this call wanted to become a beta tester, Michael, how would they do that?
If anybody on the call would like to become a beta tester, just get in contact with us, and we can make that happen.
Perfect. Michael, I'm getting a couple of people are sending me a message. So let me back up and talk about way sites for those of you who might not be familiar. Way sites are public locations that are enabled with WayAround. So a lot of the way tags are in tandem with the ADA signs outside of office doors or bathrooms, and they'll just give you a lot more information than what you can get from the sign itself. So you could get a description of the room. You could get, how many stalls are in this restroom? Do you need to lock the door behind you? Where's the nearest emergency exit? That type of information. We're also working with some micro markets, some vending machines. So there's all sorts of different places, public art projects, museums, and we're starting to work with more and more pilot projects over the course of this year. So it's really exciting to see that. And one of the things that's really enabling us to expand that program is our web portal, which lets you log in and see all of your way tags online. So right now that's available for any of our public sites, and it just gives them a lot more flexibility to be able to edit tags remotely and provide lots of great information. So that is one thing that's coming to me in the chat. And then the other, Michael, can you talk a little bit about the image pan and zoom feature?
Sure. So that is one thing that we are adding, and that is we're adding the ability to, if you have an image on a WayTag, you'll be able to take that image and you could tap on it or bring up, or long tap to bring up more options, and you'll be able to zoom in and pan around the image to see details that you may not have missed. And this is, to allow for folks that may have low vision, such as myself or others, to zoom in and see, okay, what's in this image, and see the items that you may not normally see. And that's really exciting as well. And if you do the long press on an image, that will bring up the ability to bring up a share sheet for certain images to you can save it or do other things to email yourself a copy or things like that. These are all features in this release, and it's just exciting because it allows you to do more with the app. So it adds a little bit more of an interactive layer to what's already there. And you could already do this in several other apps and web pages. So we thought, this needs to be in WayAround. This is something that people expect, kind of like dark mode. People expect those kind of things to be there. So we are very happy to be able to add those.
Yeah, that's great, Michael. And I imagine there's probably at least a few people on this call saying, what? You can have an image in WayAround? And that is another one of those features that is available for the public tags. But if you have ever ordered WayTags, you can, again, scan that package and there are images right there. So that you can test out some of these features. And the pan and zoom is not available yet. Our beta testers are working with that right now. But it will be coming out really soon. So if you haven't experienced those packaging tags, I'll hold up package right here for anyone who has some vision, but where our logo is up in the top left-hand corner, that's where you scan. That's a WayTag, and it'll give you all sorts of information about what's inside that package and links to resources, links to our YouTube channel. So definitely scan those tags. So, Michael, we have just a few more minutes, and then I'd like to switch over and open it up for other questions. But I do want to ask you about, our office environment. And we have a remote office. A lot of our employees are in Texas. We're headquartered in Plano. Of course, I'm up in New Hampshire. And what do you think about just the remote office working environment?
Well, what can I say? I work from home, and it's in the comfort of my apartment. It's I don't have to worry about office cubes or any of the troubles that come with being in office. How can you beat it? you know, it working for WayAround as a remote office is the best. It's working from home or wherever you are is amazing. But the thing is, and a lot of companies are having trouble with this, is figuring out their office culture being hybrid or work from home. And I feel like WayAround does this so well. We have meetings where we just connect and talk to each other and just see how we're, check up on each other. And I feel like that is such an amazing, way to keep a remote office going. And, it's, we are a very cohesive team. We get the job done. We enjoy what we do, and it's not, the way I look at it is it's not just a job. It's when we get to put a release out to our users, we're doing a service for folks. We're providing a service. Not only are we a company making money, we're providing a service. We're allowing folks to label and do things with their technology that they should be able to do. And so we're providing that service. And I worked in state service for a long time. And so it's nice to be able to provide one of the tools that can be used for folks to be successful, along with, helping folks, there's the folks at Chris Cole and other places that train people to use these things. But I'm now finally on the area where I can help make these things, make these tools. And so we're providing a public service as much as we are a business. And so that is such a great feeling, and to work with such a cohesive team that's been working so well together for the lifetime of the product is so amazing. And just, we talk about, different things and get together to discuss work, but also to figure out if we as people are doing well. And that is an amazing work culture. And like I said, you can't beat working from home. I've worked in an office for my entire career life, so just being able to work where you're comfortable and get the job done and enjoy what you're doing. And I feel like that's where a lot of people, they want to keep work life and social life separate. If you enjoy what you're doing well enough and you enjoy your job enough, it doesn't feel like a job. Somebody may ask me a question at 7:00 at night, and I'm always there. I'm going to be looking at seeing if I can answer that pretty quickly. And if I can, I'll answer it because I love what I do so much. Any time of the day, if I can always be of help, I try to be there, because this is not okay, I got to wake up at 8 a.m. and go to the office. No, I get to help such an amazing team. I get to be part of such an amazing team in building a product that's going to help not just people that are blind, not just people like myself, but everybody. And that's the best experience you could have.
And Michael, I think that that really extends to our community as well, all of our users. So many of the people on this call, I recognize your names. I've talked to you or emailed with you. And I think we do just have a really dedicated and tight-knit group of people who are suggesting new features, saying, hey, I really wish I could see this. And sometimes we're able to do it really quickly, and sometimes we put it on the list and it might not have happened yet. But because of the culture we've set up and because of how we all work, the more we hear from people, the better we're able to really meet those needs and continue to have that culture that's very much a dialogue. So I appreciate you saying that. So I'm going to ask you one last question, Michael, and then we're going to open it up. And I know some people have asked questions in the chat and email. And then if you have questions, you'll also be able to raise your hand. But to wrap up, if you could recommend 3 books to us, what would you recommend?
This is I've had to think about this so much because there's so many great books out there. I use Audible, and my Audible library has over 200 titles in it. I get 2 books a month, and I've been an Audible member since 2010. So it's been very difficult to recommend a good book, but I can recommend some book series that are really great. I love technology books. The series I've been reading, it's really funny, really techie, and real, it's science fiction, is The Expeditionary Force by Craig Allenson. There's a lot of references and things like that. It's a whole. The first book is called Columbus Day. Really recommend it. Great stories. You'll laugh a lot. All of these, these books are tech focused. So go figure. I'm a techie. I love it. The next one is another series called We Are Legion, We Are Bob, and funny title, but it's another artificial intelligence book, and another great book is called After On, and this one's a very interesting book because it's about a company that builds in today's time, that builds an artificial intelligence, and it comes online. And the funny thing is that the AI's name is called Flutter, and there's actually a project to build native apps with Google called Flutter currently. And the narrators of the Audible version of the book are tech journalists. So there's several different folks that narrate this book, and they all are very popular tech journalists. So it's kind of neat hearing this audiobook narrated by people in the tech industry that, if you're into technology, you will very much recognize. So it's very interesting.
That's great, and I have a couple of people in the chat who are saying they've read some of those as well. So you're in good company. Wonderful. Well, I am going to open it up now. If you have a question, do please raise your hand. I already see some hands going up. To raise your hand on the computer, it's Option Y, or on a Mac, it's Command Y. And if you're on the phone, it's *9, and then I will unmute you once I call on you. So let me start with a question that we got from email from John, and he has a question about the security of data, Michael. How secure is our data that is put into the cloud? And then a second question is it possible in the future to be able to have the option of having the data stored on the cloud or a device?
Sure, those are great questions. WayAround is always making efforts to make our products more and more secure, and we offer security through our database. And the way that we offer that is that your data, your personal tags and things like that, cannot be read by other users, and that allows for you to only have access to your data. It's kind of like when you log into your iCloud account or your Google account. You have access to that data that you put there unless you share it. So your data is secured in our database under your personal account. Now, to the second part of the question, we actually currently already do store your data. We send it to the cloud, but it's also saved on your device. So your personal tags are actually stored on both the cloud and your device, so that when you get a new device and you sign into the WayAround app, It's like magic. Once you see that white cloud icon, say white cloud connected, or go turn blue, you're going to have all of your data back as if you were on your previous device.
Yeah, that's great. And I mentioned the web portal earlier, which right now is only available for our public users, the Way sites. But we are actively thinking about ways that we might make that available for personal users as well, for your personal tags, if you'd like to manage your tags from your laptop or your desktop. So stay tuned. We don't have anything to announce yet, but it is something that I know we've had several people ask for, and we're trying to figure out the best way. So I see several hands up, and I'm just going to go in order. We'll start with Derek. So go right ahead, sir. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, hi Jessica and Michael. Michael, thank you so much for all the very informative information you've shared. A couple of quick things. In your upcoming version, have you fixed what I consider to be a very annoying problem where when you scan a tag, it will just read like the first word out of, let's say, 100 words, and then you've got to literally swipe. I'm blind, so I use VoiceOver. I've got to swipe back and forth to actually get it to where it'll read what it scanned. Has that issue been resolved?
Great question, Derek. One of the things that one thing with the when you scan a tag, it should be able to read the description. When you label a tag, it should be able to read your description. If it's not doing that, then it may be a specific VoiceOver setting that is set for the web. That's something we'd have to take a look at further, but it should be able to read your full description when you scan a tag.
And Michael, if I can add in, Derek, that is a bug that we're aware of, and it's actually an iOS bug. And there's a fix. You simply turn VoiceOver off and turn it back on, and it should fix the problem. So try that. It may come back again, but we have been in touch with Apple. We've let them know, hey, this is an issue. It's logged on their log. So that's where that stands. So hopefully that'll help you get by with that.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. I have tried several solutions, and yes, it did fix it, and then about a week later, it was back to doing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just try it again. Unfortunately, you just have to keep, thankfully, if you have that setting, the triple tap, you should be able to do it pretty quickly.
Great. And then one other suggestion, you were talking about making the tag information available on a web portal, Jessica. My suggestion in regards to that would be like for example, on the actual WayAround app itself. Sorry, let me turn my voice off. On the WayAround app itself, if you could maybe think about putting in a list of every tag. So similar to what Jessica just mentioned, but it'd be on the app so that one, especially as a blind user, doesn't have to log into a web portal. They could be alphabetized on the app and just have a list. And then the reason I would want that would simply be because, for example, I love to make my own cooking spices. And so I create recipes which I add to the WayTag that I'm attaching to the bottle of spice. However, if I'm away from home and I don't have the tag to scan, and I want to give somebody that recipe, I'd like to be able to just go into the app, list all the WayTags, sort them alphabetically, maybe have a search function, and then be able to give that person that I'm with the recipe.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Derek. And I know, in addition to Michael, a couple of other developers are on here, so we are definitely taking notes. That's a great idea. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Good. All right. I am going to move on to Patricia McPherson. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi,
Oh,
thank you, Jessica. This was
yes.
a great presentation hearing about a programmer and his history. It's pretty exciting to hear everything he had to say, and I did enjoy this today. That's basically all I wanted to say. I
Thank
do
you.
have a question. I did attend a seminar where they were talking about labeling CDs or something. And do you can you maybe email me a link to that seminar? Because they were talking about taking a photo and adding all the songs on that video. I can't remember how they
Huh.
said to do it.
Pat, I will look at I vaguely recall that, but I'm going to have to do some digging and see what I can find for you. But I'll send you an email for sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining. All right, next is Mike Wheeler. Go right ahead.
Hey there, Jessica and Michael. I just want to say thank you for putting this together. It's greatly appreciated.
You're most welcome.
So I have a question. You talk about the waste spaces, the public areas as in offices and stuff like that. Do you guys, it's a two-part question. Do you guys get a list of the companies that are a part of that? And if so, is there a way to put onto the app so somebody that is, so I'd say if I want to find see if I'm in an area that has them, I would be able to know if that area is accessible with the weight tags on signs.
Yeah, those are great questions. So we do not have a publicly available list of way sites yet. And the reason that is because they're all in a beta program. Some of them are in, testing things out for us. So I think that later this year we will have that available. Right now we're working with several schools for the blind, guide dog training schools. There's a public art project that I mentioned that is, I think, going to be installed later this month. So there's really a handful right now, but in terms of knowing when you're near a way site, we do have several different things in mind. One of those being a push notification. So if you happen to be driving by, or walking by somewhere that was a way site, your Way Around app would just alert you, hey, did you know this museum or, this university is a way site. So more of that is coming. Some things will be later this year and then definitely next year in a bigger way.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
You're most welcome. Great questions. All right. And Brian Henderson.
Hello. This is a wonderful presentation. I appreciate it. Right now, if I want to scan through all of my spices, I either have to buy the little scanner or I have to constantly hit the scan button for each one. And I was wondering if you could just incorporate a quick scan button that would be able to let me still use the app. Right now I have a thing that uses similar tags called Script Talk. And it's kind of like what you were talking about, putting prescriptions for the way tags. And on their app, there's a quick scan, and I just scan all of my medicines. It tells me the first line of the medicine, so it gets the name of the medicine. And then I can do a full scan when I get to the one I want, so I can get the information off of it. And I think you guys could do that too.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and part of that is what Michael was talking about with the background scanning. But Michael, do you want to give any more information about that?
Sure. We're always looking at different ways to incorporate that. I actually would love to see how Script Talk is doing their quick scan. That's a very interesting a bit there. But we're always looking for ways to automate the process for doing quicker scans. And I think we have some ideas of how we can do that and bring more of those functions to our home and office, product. These are just things that we're still ironing out internally. So, but we'll have more details, I'm sure, soon on that.
Yeah, thank you. Great question, Brian. All right, and Tina, go right ahead. Looks like you're still muted.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Tina Soul. I was talking to Tina Hansen, but if you want to
Oh,
go
I'm
right
sorry.
after her, no, that's
Oh, no, I
fine.
already asked my questions and put my comments in the chat. So you
Perfect.
said, Tina.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, hi,
Sorry.
Tina.
Good. Sorry about that. I thought you had unmuted everybody where they couldn't mute themselves. One of the things, speaking of automation, one of the questions that I've had for a long time is automating data entry, especially if you buy a lot of dinners, or you buy a lot of spices, or you buy a lot of other items, and that's a lot of data entry. Any more progress on automating the data entry? And then one thing that's been on my mind is, what about for those who wanted the ability to record audio labels? And part of the reason I'm thinking about this too is, as we all know, the ID Mate barcode scanner product is no longer being manufactured. So it's going to be hard to fill that void.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, and I know a lot of people are really wondering what's going to happen as that gets further and further out. So we continue to experiment with some things. We don't have anything to announce yet, but I know that having easier data entry is something that a lot of people want. So, Accessible Pharmacy and that partnership is really our first foray into making that easier. So any of your vitamins or supplements or prescriptions that you want tagged with WayAround, they can do that for you. And I think groceries is another one that we know would be really important and helpful. And we're continuing to work on it.
Yeah, that's awesome, because like I said, that's a lot of data entry, especially if you buy a lot of groceries. You're like, okay, I've got to sit down and do all this, and I need some help, and blah, blah, blah. And after a while, you're thinking, is there any way to have the app just tap into a database or something? And like I said, with Envision's ID Mate, the Galaxy product, and I think all of the ID Mate products are being discontinued because they can't get parts.
Right. I think they had emailed that announcement out I think it's been about a year now, and I know a lot of people are really disappointed.
At least. And I'm thinking, okay, that means somebody's going to have to fill that void somehow.
Right. Well, thank you. Thanks for that suggestion. And like I said, we are working on it. And once we have a good answer, we'll let you know. And somebody is putting in the messages that iOS does now have a really good OCR that can scan text that can go directly into the text field. So that might be kind of an interim solution for you.
Could you put up a tutorial about that?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
That is great. That is a good idea.
Yeah, we'll work on that one.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Really
Thank you, Tina.
confusion there, because I didn't know if you were talking to me or Tina Soul. Sorry about that.
Sure, I know. Two of our favorite Tinas. So wonderful. And let me see. I'm going to just scroll through. I know several people have asked questions in the chat, and I'm trying to watch everything. Let's see. So a couple of people have asked again about the pharmacy. It's called Accessible Pharmacy. Their website is accessiblepharmacy.com, and they have a phone number right on the website that you can call and find out if they're available for your state. And if you have any questions on how it works, just give them a call and they'd be happy to explain. And they also offer script talk, and one of the great things about Accessible Pharmacy is they'll do as many solutions as you want. So if you want large print, if you want Braille, if you want WayAround, you can ask for all of it. And they'll even package things. If you want all of the pills that you take in the morning in one package, they can do that. So it's a pretty creative service. One of their co-founders does have a visual impairment, so they, like WayAround, they're practicing what they preach. So Scott, go right ahead.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Hello from London. Michael or Jessica, how are things coming with regards to the UK? I'm now living in London. I'm from Canada, and that's where I've heard you talk before, and had no problem scanning barcodes and whatnot. And then it intrigues me about the barcodes, and Tina just said it would save a large amount of time scanning a spice or whatever it is and going right into it. One of the things over here in the UK, though, even with one of the other scanners that I use, is it doesn't read a lot of the stuff in the UK. So is there any push towards, I know you're in the UK, I don't know where I can buy them. If you can put that in notes or tell me right now, I'd love it.
Yes. So I'll take the easy question first.
Yeah.
You can get the WayTags from Brian's Quest, Brian with a Y, and I believe he's probably even on this call, but briansquest.org, and he is he's your best resource in the UK. And you know, one of the challenges, and this isn't particular to the UK, but there is no central database for any food products. And so a lot of the things that are out there use AI to sort of scrape information from the web. And what we found is the accuracy is spotty at best. And especially if you're depending on that type, you know, for allergen information, it's just not good enough for us. So that is really one of the big puzzles to figure out. And, you know, there's services where people, you know, physically go in and buy everything from a certain manufacturer and then do data entry. So that that's the most accurate way to do it. And so we're really just still looking at what is the best way to get that information and to make sure that you know, if we do make it available, that it's going to be information that you can really rely on.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask one other question. Your YouTube site, can anyone access that?
Oh, absolutely. If you just go onto YouTube and search for WayAround, that's the best way to do it. We have a ton of great resources. And in fact, this seminar is being live streamed there. So if you missed any of it, you should be able to go back and rewatch it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm redoing my mobility after 30 years, and the gal that's doing it, she teaches the cooking courses, and thanks to Derek for making that suggestion on the spices as well and the database. So I know it's more work for you guys, but it would be great for all us chefs. So.
Well, thank you, Scott. And I'm noticing that we're actually a few minutes over time. So thank you so much to everyone for joining. I see we have a couple of other questions, and I will stay on for Patricia and Tina to take your questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. But if you do need to drop off because we're over the hour, feel free. Thank you so much for joining us. Michael, thank you for all the great information you shared. And like I said, this will be available on our YouTube channel if you'd like to review it again. All right, Pat, go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm not seeing the messages that were in the chat, but you mentioned someone said there was an iOS app that they like the way it scanned text.
It is, and I haven't used it myself, so we will get some information. I think it's a native feature.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's in notes.
Well, any text field, any time there's a text field in iOS, there should be, and you could get to it with your VoiceOver rotor. I don't remember what it says, but it's one of the actions that you can get to in your rotor with VoiceOver to scan text, I believe.
Yeah, that OCR feature, I think somebody had suggested that we do a tutorial on that. So Michael, we'll put our heads together and get that out, because it's a newer feature and it is really helpful in terms of getting information onto your WayTags.
For sure.
That would be great.
Great.
It's Scott again. I have the iPhone 13, and it does work out of my camera as well, just like a scanner. I hold it over the text, and it'll start reading it to me.
Yeah, that's great.
But I do have the new 13 though. So
okay, good to know.
I believe it's several versions back, like the iPhone 10s or maybe later.
Yeah, I think it's at 11, Michael, but I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that. So
good. Well, thanks, Scott. Tina Soul, I will. You should be able to unmute yourself and feel free to ask your question.
Hi, I had a comment actually. My husband now has an S22, and we just tested the WayAround app, and it's working. Seems to be working well on the tags that I had trouble with since I'm in the beta. So, but it seems to work well on his. So, when I get my S22 in a few weeks, hopefully that'll work, well for me. But I just wanted to let you know that, Michael.
Okay. Can you remind me again what trouble you're having?
I was having it where sometimes it would take me a few times to scan a tag. I would put the phone on the tag and it would open the app like you were talking about on the background in Android, which I love. But it wouldn't just automatically read it. It would take a couple times to scan it to read it.
Oh, interesting.
And for him, it's been just, working this morning on the ones that he tried. And we're both Galaxy users. I have the S10e, and he now has an S22. So when I get my S22, will I have to opt into the beta again, or will it just download the beta version that I have?
Are you using it on an iPhone, or are you using it on your S10?
Samsung, the Galaxy S22.
Okay,
I'm a Samsung user.
Yeah,
I believe we only have a beta for iOS currently.
Yeah, Tina, why don't we check into that, and we can touch base offline. I know that you are in our beta program for the Android, and I think that some of the features Michael talked about are just in iOS right now for beta. And then, we usually, once we get everything cleaned up in iOS, then we can release it out on Android for those beta testers.
Yep.
Okay.
But we'll touch base just to make sure we're clear on everything that you're seeing and that Tony's seeing, and get you all squared away.
And are you guys going to be at National Convention?
We are planning on having some sort of presence, so more to come. In the past, we've done a partnership with JJ from AT Guys.
Yeah,
so
last time I did that, we stocked up on a whole bunch of them with a person.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. It has been such a pleasure to talk with Michael and to reconnect with so many people here. And if you do have any other questions that we didn't get to cover, please do email us, connect@wayaround.com. Will end up right in my mailbox. And if you have any questions for Michael, I can direct them to him as well. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk again soon.